I am a passionate advocate for women. I'm passionate about many things. I'm passionate about being an Emory alum, and I'm an 82 Oxford, 85 grad, and continuing. And it's wonderful to kind of continue to be part of that community and watch people grow and develop as relationships and friends. As an executive coach now, one of the special things for me is being able to watch people grow across the lifespan. And it's funny just meeting here today and talking with people that I connected with and worked with over 10 years ago who now are telling me the cool things that they're doing. So there's something very special about the growth and being part of this community, and I'm so delighted to be here today. But there's something really special that occurred for me as a coach. And before we get started talking with Shira, I just wanted to share a few remarks about leadership power for women and beginning to think about our power as women leaders and how we continue to tap and grow ourselves as leaders. Because I was very fortunate to have a coach early, which ironically was also an Emory alum, and I thought, oh my goodness, I don't know anything about this coaching stuff, but he's from Emory, so how bad could it be? And I would go on to have a wonderful 10-year relationship with this coach that would help me build a career that matters and also become a leader that matters. And of course, when we are changed and have an experience, what do we want to do as women? We need to give it back. And that's one of the great powers we have as women, to share and figure out how we're going to continue to grow and help not only ourselves but others. And so as I've coached and worked with people, a conversation began to emerge. And the question came up, do we coach women differently than men? And of course, as I answer that question, my first instinct was absolutely not. And my male business partner, Jean, said, hey, wait a minute. You know, and we began to have a dialogue. And that dialogue began to uncover what the reality is for women and how we're growing and continuing to tap our leadership. And as I think about helping women accelerate their path to leadership, women have amazing gifts. And how do we make sure, as coaches, colleagues, fellow mentors, fellow alumni, that we continue to help women navigate those natural twists and turns that we have in our careers that are normal and evolutionary, but don't hold us back? And so I am particularly glad to be here with someone today that epitomizes nobody's holding this girl back. First of all, I have to say I am honored to have known Shira Miller in multiple stages of her life. This wonderful photo that's up here, when we launched the Emory Alumni Career Coaching Program, Shira was an early adopter. So that was 11 years ago. So I knew Shira as a fellow PR professional. Before I became a coach, I was in corporate communications, so Shira was already a legend in the PR community, for real. I'm not kidding. Everybody will tell you she was an amazing communications professional. And then, an early adopter of coaching, I had a chance to work with Shira when she was building her own agency and growing from a phenomenal practitioner to a marvelous business leader. And I was glad to share that journey with her a bit. But I tell you, when you lose touch and you kind of watch from afar and you come back and you realize, wow, just wow. So I am very honored today to really sit with Shira and talk a little bit about her story, so you might learn some of the great things she's done, not only in navigating the stages of success for women, but in claiming her greatness, and some tips to share about claiming your own. Shira, welcome.
Thank you. That was the nicest introduction I've ever paid $20 for. So thank you. I'm excited to be here.
So tell us a little bit about your story. I've given a little tee up, but you've had quite a journey. Tell folks what you're doing now, and let's talk about it.
Okay, if we'll start at the beginning, and I swear I won't show you like a slideshow or anything. I am the daughter of a delicatessen owner from Columbia, South Carolina. When I went to Emory a really long time ago, class 88 college, it changed my life. I was one of those, you know, the kids you used to see who came into town for the Barclay Forum to debate? I was one of them, and that's what pulled me to Emory in the first place. And I had a brief stint with the NBC News Southeastern News Bureau as a peon, and then entered the field of public relations. So throughout that time, I worked in corporate for 12 years, had my own agency for 13 years, became an executive coach, and decided to put it all at play to go back to corporate.
So that's quite a journey. What's been your guiding force for your career decision making?
My intuition. I bet y'all expected me to say something very strategic and deep. But it's trusting my gut. We all have intuition, and you just have to learn how to access it. But you know that little feeling in your stomach about, oh, this feels good, or back it up? You got to listen to it. Whenever I've listened, I've made the best decisions in my career.
In our stage development work, we look at the different stages, think about development partners, navigating critical turns. You've made a lot of courageous moves, listen to your intuition. What are some of the turns that you've made that you could share that were kind of defining moments?
I will share two. So back in 1999, I was very happy with my corporate career. If y'all have been here a long time, remember a company called Upton's Department Stores? I was with the parent company, American Retail Group, in charge of corporate communications. And before then, everything was pretty easy in my career. I just, positions of increasing responsibility. Well, after we closed Upton's, which was a $500 million piece of business, whoops, we all ended up losing our jobs. And that was hard. For the first time in my career, I didn't know what I wanted to do next. At the same time, I was going through a painful divorce. Life was pretty crazy. And the lesson I learned is that you really have to take care of yourself. You really have to be your own advocate. A company's not going to necessarily look after you. Neither will other people in your life. You are responsible for you. And that was a very big eye-opener. The second time that I'll share is 2014. So I built my agency. Jody helped me very much with that in the process when you were my coach. And then the recession hit, remember that. And after that, it was sort of a game changer. I became an independent consultant again, but it just wasn't the same. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I had an executive coach at the time who was really formative. I started considering becoming a coach myself. And so in 2014, I realized, I had the coaching, I started building a practice on the side, that I wanted to take it back into a company. I was really passionate about people and culture and organizational change, and it's easier, I think, and more effective to make those changes in a company. So like a Reese's Peanut Butter Cup, I took that new stuff and my 20 plus years in corporate communications and decided to craft, a different role.
How has coaching played in your leadership? I mean, of course, as an executive coach, I'm a passionate advocate for coaching, and I know what I experienced personally. But developing it, becoming, and putting it back in the leader, what has been the experience that you might share?
Of using coaching as back in a corporation?
And as a leader. I mean, you are a leader now, coaching leaders and being part of a leadership. So
I'll tell you, it's been phenomenal for me. I'll give you a couple little tidbits too. Like party favors, takeaways, okay? Have you guys ever heard of the 3 stages of listening? Level 1, level 2, level 3? Is that okay? Some people are nodding their heads. Just even that concept. Level 1 is when someone's talking to you and all you can hear is me, 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 me. Level 2 is when you're engaged in a conversation and you intently can't hear what they are saying. But level 3 is when you read the room and anything else that is unsaid. Just learning that particular skill has helped me so much. I'm with a $2 billion corporation. National DCP is the supply chain for Dunkin' Donuts. But so much of what we do in influencing people and building culture are things that never come out of anyone's mouth. But it's reading the room and what is remaining on the table and how are people reacting after the official meeting and all of that. So it's helped make me much more effective in my role. I've also created a national executive coaching program for our senior team. I am part of the C-suite, so we found coaches for them, and we're about to kick it off for our key leadership group. So there was a receptivity. I wasn't just pigeonholed for corporate communications and marketing. They constantly let me create more. I've come up with an idea, and my boss, the CEO, is like, great, make it happen. So it's helped tremendously.
Well, and I think this is another great reason why women need to be at the C-suite level.
Yes.
To bring change and power to the culture. Who were your development partners along the way? Thinking back, now obviously you had some coaching along the way, but from the early phases as you began to navigate term, who were some of your development partners and how did you know who to go to and when?
Oh, well, I'm going to go back to my gut. It sounds like I'm an advertisement for intuition.com or something. I don't know if that exists. So the 3 most influential people, if I think about it, a corporate boss that I had at American Retail Group. Her name's Elaine Gregg. the most amazing mentor you can ever ask for. She was in charge of organizational development, and she could really see people's potential and wanted to help you become the best, regardless of whether it benefited the company or not, and saw such great potential, gave me good advice. I started my agency. I fell into consulting after we closed Upton's. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and just started doing freelance PR work and building it up. So I realized I needed a little bit of help with direction. I still saw myself in a smaller role, and that's when I turned to you. And you helped me make the transition from independent practitioner to let's grow a national boutique agency. And that was fantastic. It really set me on a great trajectory, had a half dozen employees, won a lot of awards, did some great work for clients. And the third person actually started out as my client. Has anybody in this room experienced Leadership Buckhead? It's a wonderful organization. It's like Leadership Atlanta, really great development program. And a woman named Michelle Goss came to speak to us, and I thought she was brilliant. Went after her. I was like a little fangirl afterwards, like, oh my gosh, I want to talk to you. And when she found out what I did, she hired me to do a branding project for her. Through that, I heard how phenomenal she was, and I turned to her more for life coaching, as well as business coaching. You know, my goals at the time, you know, I think that life is what we lead. There's not personal and professional. We have to be accessible 24/7 these days, so it's really all about the whole enchilada. And so Michelle helped me realize my goals and dreams, not only business-wise and as I was changing, but you know, I wanted to meet the right guy after being divorced for years. I wanted to buy the house of my dreams at the time. There are all these other things. And she was and is still a good resource for those kind of changes. So I think outsourcing is good for the American economy, but it's really important to find the resources that can help you. And that'll change and shift as you change and shift.
Do you think, in your opinion, as women grow and develop, that they can achieve without having help?
I think it depends how far you want to go. And I think the people who have had the most brilliant careers and achievements and happiest lives that I've seen have all turned to others for help. There's clearly nothing wrong with it. There's everything to gain. So if you can find resources and people to help you along the way, more power to you.
I would agree. I think that as we're navigating, it's normal that we're going to hit these critical turns. Life is very messy.
Yes.
As much as we like to think, and there's always so many great things happening in these twists and turns. And I think it's just powerful that we always have that support system, that board of advisors, those people that really help us through those different twists and turns. I know personally I've had 4 coaches across my lifespan, mentors, colleagues, partners, people that you're tapping to be your best self. So it's a great example. Turning to a topic you are very passionate about, claiming your greatness, mastering the art of self-advocacy. Communication, brand building, visibility is the heart of PR. As a recovering PR person myself, I find it fascinating that it's always easier to tell someone else's story, to help someone else with their powerful story. But when we turn it inward, it looks very different, that we're very close to our intellectual property. How have you been able to kind of navigate through that?
Well, studies have shown, well, first of all, you're not alone. Studies have shown that women who can be the strongest advocate for others, who can go in there and negotiate a $10 billion deal, when it comes to yourself, you might still be too quiet or hesitant to speak up. And it would surprise some of your colleagues because they see you being so dynamic at work. But the thing is, when you're hesitant to advocate for yourself and self-promote, it's going to hold you back in some way. You might not get you might get the promotion, but it might take twice as long. You might not get as big of a raise as you would have. And I find that I've got a couple of tips. There's a handout. I think it's on every table. I read a blog post about this yesterday. So please take it with you if you'd like to read more. There's a couple of things to do. The willingness to self-promote is very important. And there's a way to do it. I'm going to use that as an example, if that's good. So it's not about taking a megaphone and when the CEO walks by screaming, I reduced costs by 43%. What is effective is taking wins and sharing them in the service of others or your company overall. And I'll give you an example. Let's say that you are asked to speak at an industry conference because you did something pretty rock star at work and others have heard about it. That's great, accept it, and then start sharing it. But it could be shared with an email to other departments of, hey, this great opportunity, been asked to speak. Here's the ROI we're going to get for our organization. Thank everybody who touched it at all, because people don't get thanked and recognized enough. And if they were involved with your project or initiative, that was so terrific, make sure you're doing that acknowledgement. Turn to your communications team and say, hey, I'd love to contribute a blog post. If you want to interview me for newsletter content, they'll love you. I swear, when people come to my team, we're very, very happy when people want to share that kind of content. Post something on LinkedIn. These are things that will benefit your company and others and help you become a subject matter thought leader and create opportunities beyond what you're currently doing.
As you think about your own journey, different turns, advocating yourself, times when you felt vulnerable, times when you were navigating through, why do you think it's so hard for women?
Well, I do not have a psychology degree. That is the asterisk as I say this. I am not a licensed medical professional. But I think it's hard because gender stereotyping as a whole, when we're girls, we're raised to be nice and to not rock the boat and to behave and to be a good little girl. And it's hard to get over that, even if one of the high points in my debate career at Emory was we were debating the Citadel, and this really obnoxious guy started picking on my debate partner, a guy. So I cross-examined him and made him cry. I wasn't trying to be mean, but he was really out of line, and it kind of shut him down. That takes balls and being aggressive, and that kind of behavior has been lovely and helped me in many ways in my career, but if I tried to do that in asking for a raise or creating a new initiative, that probably wouldn't go over so well at work. So, you know, you've got to take a measured approach and know your audience. Did I even answer your question there?
You did.
Okay, I don't know. I wanted to share that. I made that guy cry.
Well, I think sometimes we have to, I think it is really interesting. We were talking about this in a topic we were doing with an organization, and the role we have in advocating for others. And in particular, I just got back from the United Nations Commission on Status of Women.
Wow.
It was really cool.
You are a rock star.
Oh, well, I tell you, it was cool. I hang out with cool people sometimes, and that rubs off. And what was interesting, I found myself interested in the role that men have in advancing gender equality for women, and what we do when we see something that is occurring and how we speak up on behalf of others in the moment, in real time. And so I think as women, you know, obviously doing that for ourselves and the teams we work for, but I think it's a very important role that we become advocates for others. And so, you know, as you think about the different topics and the different things that we're doing is just helping, making sure we know how to speak up. So maybe not to make everybody cry, but...
Well, and you know, I do have an example to share of something that I think is a good piece of advice. Has anyone heard of Accenture did a study? I'm probably going to garble it, but it is in my blog post. I think it's called Workplace to Equality 2017. Anyone familiar with that? Look at me up on LinkedIn and you can get a link to it. One of the tenets of the study said that women practicing self-advocacy and deliberately planning a proactive career strategy is going to be critical in closing the gender pay gap. Now, it doesn't have to happen at the beginning of your career. You can do this at any point. I was in my late 40s when I started redesigning a career, saying I want to go back to corporate, and I want to use my executive coaching and everything else I've done, and was able to do that through designing it. And as I look ahead, you know, 10, 15 more years in corporate or whatever is to come next, I have a plan. I'm always consciously designing that and crafting it, and that's something that you can do at any point in your career.
Other ways you have set boundaries that have allowed you to be a powerful business leader, an executive in the C-suite, and still be successful, personal and professionally?
Boundaries has been an ongoing challenge in the sake of being authentic. One of the boundaries I set, I'm not one of those people who's going to sleep with the cell phone near me. It drives me crazy. I'll check probably till like right after dinner, and then if I don't have a hint of anything being wrong, I'm not going to look at it again. I need 2 hours of cool down space. I want to veg in front of the TV or read a good book or just hang out with my husband. And that time is great. We happen to have something big going on at work right now. They know to call. If something's up, call me. I don't want to sit there and be chained to email if I don't have to be. So that's a good boundary. When I'm on vacation, okay, we all have a rule as part of, and this is part of being the C-suite. We are expected, wherever we are, to check in twice a day, in the morning and at night. I'm not the kind of person who's going to be hiking the Appalachian Trail on vacation. I'm at a spa, just saying. So I still have cell service, okay? So we check in, but then you're done. I know what's going on. I don't try to work. I just kind of look. Oh, okay, everything's cool. That's good. I just keep my pulse on it. And that, maintaining a little tether means I don't especially have to worry. I've got a great team. I know they've got my back. They're handling things. So boundaries, maybe checking in a little bit, stopping. And I'm going to the email because that's the biggest trap, you know, all your devices in setting boundaries. I don't take my phone with me. I work out in the morning. I'm one of those people who goes and works out at 5 a.m. I don't have anything to, I'm just like, don't get in my personal space during a spin class. Anything that's happening in the world can wait. So.
No, I would agree. I think it's interesting. That's, by the way, it's not a gender-specific issue. I mean, I think men and women are really struggling with the production trap. But it is interesting because I find men, when I'm coaching men, which is what's so interesting about being able to coach a blended practice, is, boy, when men get it, they move quick. So I'll come in and go, wow, you have too much on your plate. And by the next session, they're like, you were right. I've divested of 7 things. All right, we talked about vulnerability and sharing that. Guidance, tips on vulnerability in the workplace for leaders and for women as a leadership coach, as a leadership leader yourself.
I think it's important to be vulnerable no matter what your role is and no matter what your gender is. I've done a lot of coaching with the rest of our executive team, and they've seen a difference when they come out and share a story or make a joke or be self-deprecating. There's a certain point in your career where, especially, you know, I'm Gen X. If you've got people who are baby boomers, if you've got people, well, I think the millennials have it more figured out, quite frankly. But if you look at my generation, you know, we were all raised in a time where you have to be perfect and nothing can be wrong and you can't admit weaknesses. And that doesn't work anymore. So the advice is to be yourself and to know your audience and to know the best ways to connect with them.
So as we think about claiming our greatness, revisit some of our tips and strategies. What are you advocating that as we go into our breakout sessions today, we can talk about?
Okay, aim high. If you pause for a moment and you think about the apex of your career, what your heart would truly love to achieve, okay? Do you have that in your mind right now? Go the next step. Go beyond that. Because sometimes when you aim high, you might put a little, oh, well, okay, I can aim high. I can be a VP. What if you can be an EVP? What if you can be the CEO? You know, you won't need to want it. It's got to be desired. It's not about making anybody else happy. It's got to be about what works for you. But you can achieve so many different things. King & Spalding is an amazing law firm. And if you're working here, don't you want to be a partner? Don't you want to be the rock star partner? It applies to anything. Maybe you're interested in creating your own business. And you think, wouldn't it be terrific if I had 2 million? And then start escalating. Oh my gosh, here's a great example. And I had the pleasure of doing some public relations for them in the early days, Spanx. When Sarah Blakely invented the original footless pantyhose in 2001, 2002, you know, she just wanted to make women's butts look better when they were wearing cream-colored pants. My God, do I know all this so well. And you know, within the first year, we grew to a $17 million company. It's a multi-billion-dollar organization. She never had any limit. She just kept seeing how it could grow and grow. So take off your own blinders. Chances are good you put the blinder on yourself. So aim high is really important. Let's see. I talked about data. Oh, have I talked about inner saboteur? Let's do that for just a second. So you know that little voice in your head that you get sometimes, and it's full of doubt, and it says, oh, don't try so hard, or you might fail, don't rock the boat. Okay, have you heard them? We've all heard them at some point. Those voices started probably with a good intention. Maybe they were trying to protect you at an earlier age, but the point is you probably outgrown it. So rather than go, la, 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 I can't hear you, you know, trying to ignore it doesn't make it go away. Listen, acknowledge it, say thank you, I know you were trying to protect me, but here's how I'm going to start moving forward. And things that I've advised people to do, write this in a journal entry, have a conversation out loud. I'm not going to make fun of you if you're the person talking and hearing voices. I've seen someone make a PowerPoint of here to, to my inner saboteur, why I'm done with that behavior and why I'm going to go for the next level. There's a lot of things you can do. Listen to it, thank it, and then move on. So those are a couple of tips.
I always talk about, we always have emotions and saboteurs that are always with us. They're like our constant companion. One of the reasons I chose coaching over counseling is we know they're there. The question is, what role are they playing? And I'm like, it's kind of like driving in a car. It's like, just don't let them drive.
Yeah, don't.
Just, they can hang out. They might always be there, but make sure they're in the back seat. Put them in a place and make sure the folks that are in the front seat with you are the ones you want to be talking to on the way. And so really, I think it's a great point.